Hello, and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, 𝐄𝐦𝐢𝐥𝐲 𝐏𝐭𝐚𝐤. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and business thrives. And the Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about the journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging each of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we're going to be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and you want some of my top tips to help you be a more effective leader, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca. You can click on the button at the top of the page that says take the quiz, and then you can share your results, connect with our guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at @highvoltleadership. My guest this week is Emily Ptak, the founder of Ptak and Co. Not only is this incredible woman just a remarkable digital marketing expert, she's also a dear friend. And I'll warn you, our conversation today gets a bit colorful at moments because we are both so passionate and completely irreverent. And Emily will tell you she's broken all the rules and discovered that she's basically unemployable. But that's what makes her exceptional at what she does and absolutely inspirational to spend time with. So buckle up because you're going to fall out of your seat laughing during today's episode. Hey everyone, I have a special treat for you today. I have my good friend Emily here, and she is such a crazy character. This is going to be an incredible conversation. I am super excited about this because we just talk shit all the time, but we come up with great things. That's the amazing part. But
absolutely.
I am so glad to have you on the Female Founder Friday podcast. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. I can't wait to talk with you and, wow your listeners with my crazy leadership antics.
I love it. We have a blast every time we talk, no matter what we're talking about. So this is going to be a hell of an episode. Emily, I know you have a crazy cool journey to being a female founder, and I would love you to tell us that backstory and how you got to where you are today.
All right. Well, it all starts back in my childhood. No. How deep are we going? No, so I like to say that I'm fucking unemployable. Basically is what it is. I graduated from university. Shout out to Gigi's University of Ottawa. Loved my time there. I got an honors Bachelor of Arts in English, which was basically a very expensive book club, but I loved every second of it. And, once I graduated, I was kind of like, okay, so academia or like work at Starbucks. Like I didn't understand that there were different opportunities that I could pursue with an English degree. And so, I actually kind of fell into marketing because there was a video production agency in Toronto that recognized someone who can read a lot and, distill that information and then write really well is going to be able to do marketing really well because those are pretty fundamental skill sets, right? So I kind of fell into it, but then, my career journey was very up and down. Like I'd get a job and it was great, but then I'm really assertive. And when I was younger, I was probably more reactive, I was definitely more reactive, wasn't amazing with the emotional self-regulation and all of that. So I didn't really play very well in the sandbox with others and it just kept biting me in the ass, but I wouldn't learn that lesson until kind of, later.
Right.
And so, I'd work at agencies and they were super toxic. The work hard, party hard agency trope is real for a reason. There was an agency I worked at in Toronto, and every Friday my boss would show up in the morning with like 2 4s of beers and be like, let's party. And I was like, but like, we have work to do. I don't know about this, guys. Like, I have things to do. So I kind of worked in corporate Canada, was not for me. Clearly, I've got lots of tattoos. I like to swear. I don't take any bullshit. So, I couldn't really play by those rules. And I just kept, leaving jobs or getting fired from jobs. And I was like so sick of being stuck in that endless cycle of trying to feel like I belong somewhere and trying to feel like I was valued somewhere. And, the kind of final straw was I was working at this startup and I had so many amazing ideas for how not only could we improve what we did for our clients, but also how we could improve our own, internal culture, our own internal marketing and communications, and how could we be a better team. And nobody gave a shit. Like nobody cared about my ideas. And, I had pretty full access behind the curtain. And I saw how much money this company was making and I saw what they paid people. And I was like, this just seems really shady and shitty. And like, if you don't want to improve and you're not, giving the opportunities to grow, then I think I can just kind of do it better myself. So I was sort of moonlighting a little bit on the side at that point. I had like minimal, like probably I was getting a few $100s a month in clients. And I was like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
And so I quit my job. I broke up with my boyfriend. We were in a pretty toxic relationship. I moved out. I got my own, apartment, no roommates or anything. And I was like, I'm going to start my own marketing company. And I kind of backed myself into a corner where I had to make it work, because if I didn't get clients and I didn't, make it happen, then I was going to be living at the DI. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was like, I just don't personally, not for me. I love this apartment. I want to stay here.
Yeah.
So it really lit a fire under my ass. And, I definitely had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't born entrepreneurial. I've never run a business before. And so I was like terrified every day. And, I wouldn't have clients, I wouldn't have things to do. And I would just make busy work for myself for the first little bit to practice. So I'd write different blogs or practice my design skills, to fill the time and to give myself something I could show to people. But, it was a tough, very humbling beginning to just be sitting in an apartment by yourself being like, okay, now what? Like, what do I do? How do I do this?
Hey, I got to tell you, I really love that. And I love that you are just so unabashedly open about like this, like I did not fit in this. This was not for me. Whether I quit or got fired, it was clear, like time out, not square peg, hello round hole.
Totally.
Never gonna work.
Yeah. And I think I had a lot of growing to do myself. Like, I mean, I think not everybody fits into working for somebody else. And I think that that's okay. But that wasn't necessarily shown to be a path for me growing up, right? Like it was go to university, get the good job, buy the house, get married, have the kids, very, traditional sort of setup. And even exploring things like the trades or stuff like that, that wasn't really a path that was sort of pursued or talked about in my household.
Right.
And so, I didn't even think that that was a possibility for myself. And I just basically got to my breaking point where I was like, it's do or die. Like I'm clearly not thriving or even surviving in these environments. And so it's like, I need to just try something completely different. And I thought, the worst thing that's going to happen is it's not going to work. And then I'll get a job or I'll figure it out, right? Like I'll plan that next step when I get there. But I was like, if it doesn't work, who cares? I tried it. And, I'll have learned something, because I really do believe in that. It's cliched phrase, but I never lose. I either win or I learn. So I'm never starting over at ground zero. I'm starting over from experience and from what I've learned from the last, thing that I've done.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I just, I like, sometimes you just have to step off the cliff.
Yeah, totally.
Like
I wasn't even aware if I even had a parachute. I didn't know. I was like, I'm just going and we're going to see what happens. It could be a 1 foot drop and I'm like totally fine. Or it could be like a 400-foot sheer cliff and it's going to implode, and that's fine too, because there will be something after that, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you know what? Being an entrepreneur is really that leap of faith. And I hear from a lot of female founders, they come from corporate and recognize there is something wrong here. There is something intolerable about what is happening. And I need something different. And you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. Like, fuck that shit. I'm going to bet on me, because I think I can do a hell of a better job than all of those idiots over there.
Absolutely. And it wasn't, I didn't feel like I had mentors in the workplace. I had a lot going on in my personal life. And, I had a domestic violence partner and we were going through courts. And so, yeah, leave your personal shit at the door when you show up to work. But also, that's not how real life works. I'm a human being. I'm dealing with complex situations just like everybody else is. And I need a little bit of grace to
Yeah.
figure out how I can work and how I can balance all of this anxiety and things that are happening to me right now. And so, that's a more extreme example, but it's a great way to sort of talk about there really isn't that psychological safety in
Oh,
the workplace.
yeah.
And even, I started my business in 2017, 5 years ago. And even then, like that was not a phrase that I heard. Now you see it everywhere and the awareness is
Yeah.
finally starting to pick up. But, when I was going through that situation, like I had someone who didn't work in HR, did not have an HR background, pull me into a meeting room and basically say, this is unacceptable. You need to leave that shit at home. And so you're going to leave right now and you're going to go home. And I was like, I've just phoned the police this morning. I don't know if this man is outside waiting for me to leave work. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's at the house. Like, not only was it unsafe in the workplace, they were actually putting me into an unsafe situation, period. Right. And
Yeah.
it's shocking that a woman would sit there across from a desk and say that to me. It was shocking to me. And I still, even now, look back and go, what the hell was going on there? Right. But that did me a favor because it took me to that startup that gave me the confidence to say, you know what? No, I am smart. I do know what the fuck I'm doing
Yeah.
and I can do this and I'm going to make it work. Like I'm nothing if not resilient. I can get punched down and beaten to the corner, but I will get up every time. Like,
Hell yeah. No,
yeah.
I love that. Like, we talk a lot about safe work environments and how important belonging is to creating
Mhm.
safety and diversity and inclusion and equality. But
Yes.
what an incredibly unsympathetic, unempathetic human, not only
Yeah.
to make you feel unsafe at work, but then to try and put you back in a physically unsafe situation in your home.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
truth is, we are a whole person. That
Yeah.
old bullshit trope of leave your personal life at home. Well, guess what? We all freaking work from our home. So
That's right.
how do you even escape that shit anymore? But that is just such a bullshit thing to say. Now,
It is.
we need to vote, we need to, work, do the work and do it well. But the truth is, it catches up with all of us. Every single one of us is
Absolutely.
our shit. And we bring it with
Absolutely.
every day.
Yeah. We
That's
don't know, the people snapping in a meeting or
yeah.
whatever, did they have a fight with their spouse this morning? Is someone sick in their family? Did they just have one of those days where, they wake up and they're like, it's going to be one of those fucking
Yeah.
days, right? Yeah. Like, we don't know how much the person next to us is trying to hold it together.
Yeah.
And can we extend that little bit of grace to them in each of our moments and interactions where, yeah, work is important, but if I died tomorrow, touch wood, when I was working for that company, I would have been replaced instantly, it wouldn't have mattered because obviously, the people there weren't valued in the way that I would like to be valued in the workplace. And it taught me a lot of lessons that I could bring with me, into entrepreneurship and say, okay, maybe I don't know what the perfect leader looks like, but I know what it doesn't look like. And it
Yes.
doesn't look like that.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I love that. We're gonna talk about your leadership style later, but I actually think that's really important. I mean, if nothing else, we learned valuable lessons about what not to do and who not to be, right? And how
Absolutely.
we don't want to show up.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I guess if that's
And
all you
I'm
can
still
take away,
learning.
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
still learning now. How do I want to show up? And I still make mistakes. I wouldn't say I'm a perfect leader, but I know I will never be that person. If somebody, I had a team member who was really going through it for a while, and I could tell, like, she was very involved with work, and she gave it 120% all the time. And then I was seeing little mistakes happen, and I was seeing she was late and she was checked out. And I was like, something is wrong because this is not, how this person
yeah.
operates daily. And, they were going through really severe depression and anxiety and had a lot going on personally. And I was like, I get it. I also live with anxiety. I take medication. It affects me just like I'm sure it affects, most
Yeah.
people to some degree have it. Um, and so I said, you know what, this is what we're gonna do. Like, you're gonna take some time off, you're gonna regroup, you're gonna do your therapy, you're gonna do what you need to do. And like what I can do to support, what can I take off your plate?
Love-
How can I support you? How can I show up so that you feel supported and you're not stressed about these mistakes that you're making, because I don't care about that. I care, are you okay as a human being?
Yeah.
The rest of it will come, and it's not, again, I work in marketing. Nobody is dying if there's a typo on a social media post. I'm not a surgeon, there's no real risk involved with what I do in terms of safety, right?
Yeah.
So there's brand risks and whatever, but
Well,
like I always joke, nobody's dying if your marketing goes sideways. So,
no.
it was more important that this team member feel supported and feel not only supported, but that they can talk about that with me, however they feel comfortable, to whatever degree
Yeah.
they feel comfortable, and know that I'm not gonna be like, well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Have you tried being happy? Figure it out. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And the one thing I hear in all of that is such incredible empathy. And that it leading, when we lead with empathy, we automatically start to create safety for people because they know that we are trying to connect with them on a human to human level. That's what empathy really is. It's about connecting with someone to try and understand how they feel and how you may have felt like that, and really leverage your own personal experience in that space. And Emily, if nothing else, all of the shit you went through, it's pretty clear that it's given you an incredible capacity to be empathetic. And
Thank you.
that's amazing as a leader. If nothing else, if you start with empathy, you can almost always figure the rest of the shit out with people.
Absolutely. It's not that, like I say, it's not that deep. It's not that hard what we do. There's always a path. There's multiple paths forward in my line of
Ah,
work, right? So there's always space to take a pause and say, okay, you know what? We're clearly stressed out. Like, let's go get an ice cream. Let's talk about life. Let's just take a breather and table, the work will be there tomorrow.
yeah.
And especially as an entrepreneur, I mean, I struggle with that delineation of, especially working from home, when my workday is done, I still sit and think about, oh, I didn't get to this, or I didn't finish that, or this isn't, I didn't love what I wrote there, or maybe I should go back and tweak it. And it's like, oh my God, there's always going to be something else left on the to-do list, right? Like, it's never going to be empty. So just
Oh.
accepting that and saying, okay, I'm going to shut it down anyway. I've done great work today. I'm proud of myself. Now, let's go have a glass of wine and sit outside with my dog or something instead.
Love that. That's so beautifully said, because I think you're right. We can
Mhm.
work ourselves to the bone. We can try and work our team to the bone. But in the end, how do we get the best out of people? We get the best out of our people when they feel like they are seen and heard and
Mhm.
respected and like they belong. And
Absolutely.
sometimes it means putting the work aside, digging into our own empathy, and just really connecting with them so they feel
Mhm.
that, right? So, Emily,
Yeah.
it's just beautiful. I love that. I love that that's what's grown from all the shit that you had to go.
Horrible thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No,
you
that's
know what?
great.
Beautiful. You have to shovel. I mean, you literally shovel shit into a flower bed to make it grow, right? Like, you need manure, you need compost, you
Yeah.
need the shit to make the beautiful things come to light. And so, life is like that too. And leadership
Yeah.
is like that too. And I remember, my dad, he worked in, corporate big data for a long time. He understands people. I mean, he can hear two sentences from someone and he's got them pegged. Like, it's just an incredible skill set. And so I leaned very heavily on him in my early days of like, okay, like, a client said this and I don't know how to respond and I'm freaking out and whatever. And he'd be like, okay, like, take a breather. And, when it came to finally growing and saying, okay, I'm ready to hire some help, I said to him, like, I don't have a lot of money to pay people. And, I want this quality of work, but I can only afford this. And is it even worth it? And he said, there's really three ways that people feel valued at work, right? So it's money, of course, nobody's
Yeah.
working for free.
No.
And then it's also, that respect piece, that human piece that you talk about. And then it's also feeling like they can grow. So he said, if you
Ah,
can't pay them, then you've still got these other two things. I mean, I paid them. He's like, if you can't pay them this huge, let me just back it up a sec. I do pay people. You know, he said, if you don't have this huge salary that you can give them, then how can you integrate these other two? Is there a conference that you can send them to? Can you pay for a subscription for you know, courses or whatever? What can you work in that's, you know, accessible that you can do to really make them feel valued? And that has really stuck with me. And it's I mean, I just think it's so true. And the places where I really struggled, even though you know, I made good money and they sent me to do these things, that missing piece of the human, the empathy, understanding me as a person was missing. And that's enough to make or break a relationship at work easily.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. What a brilliantly simple way, you know, sort of to approach your people and your team, and how you structure it, and how you keep people engaged. I love that. I love those three simple things. They're just so profound. Yeah, that your dad's clearly a genius.
Thanks, Len.
So I want to ask you, because this is going to be hilarious, where have you really fucked it up?
Oh my God. Where do we want this alphabetically, categorically? Like, what do we, how much time do we have? Haven't I fucked up? Like, God. If you can fuck it up in a business, I've done it. Like, we'll just say that. When I started, like, I was just like accepting money from clients into like a personal bank account. Like, I didn't even have a business bank account. And then finally I hired an accountant. They were like, everything you're doing, stop doing all of it immediately. Like, here's some structure. And this
for the love of God, cut it out.
You gotta pay taxes. Like, you know, you need to do these things. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And when, you know, when it comes to leadership, like, when I first hired sort of my first contractors, I think the biggest issue that I had was not even understanding how to communicate what it is that I needed from them, right? So I'd hire them and, you know, they had these baseline of skills, and I generally would hire, you know, recent grads. I often will hire women. Being a women-led company, I want to give that next generation of marketers that, you know, stepping stone to something bigger. And you know, but I didn't know how to speak that language with them of like, okay, I wanted to be their friend. I wanted to be the cool boss. You know, I'm not a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. So it's like, I'm not a regular boss. I'm the cool boss. And so, but it was like questionable. Like, I was working out of a co-working space, and I remember this one girl came to work with me, and I mean, I believe professionalism, and this is going to be a hot take, and I don't care who believes me or not. I think professionalism is a lie based on white supremacy, right? Like, we have all these weird bullshit rules about this hairstyle is professional and this hairstyle is not, right? So there's, you know, we can have another conversation around that, but there is a baseline, right, that we all need to kind of present in somewhat of a professional way. I'm professional with tattoos, with pink hair. But this girl showed up and it was like short shorts and like a crop top. And like, I was just like, wow, like, this is still a place of business, you know? And I remember I had other people that worked in the co-working space, like, message me and say like, hey, you know, that's a little insane. And I was like, well, first of all, let's not judge people based on what they're wearing. But I also understand that it made people uncomfortable, but that was the tone that I set, was we're casual, we're fun, we're cool. You know, we're here. All I care about is deadlines and deliverables. Just get your shit done. The rest doesn't matter. But, you know, it does matter. And it does a little bit matter. You know, not to shame. I love a crop top. I love a short short. If you catch me out hiking with my dog, you will likely see me wearing that. But I'm out hiking, you know, I'm not sitting in my office. So, you know, I really struggled to set the professional tone with my team, to the point of, you know, then I got taken advantage of. You know, they'd run up bills, or they'd be late because they knew, well, Emily's chilling, she doesn't really give a shit, right? So, and it wasn't that I didn't care, it's that I didn't know the language or how to demonstrate positive leadership to these team members. And, you know, I had to go through a few iterations of team members before I also learned enough to be able to lead them in a meaningful way. And we all felt, you know, like we could do our best work and we could be ourselves, but there was still that sort of baseline of, we're here to get shit done, right?
Yeah. And we have to do it in a professional way. And
Yes,
that leads into professional communication and respect for each other and, you know, professional dress, right? You can't
absolutely.
wear your, this isn't Kim Kardashian. You can't wear your string bikini to the office.
I
That's like
know.
time out, time out. You don't sell Skims, get some clothes on, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I, again, I really, Emily, I love you so much because you are so just authentically who you are. And you don't, I mean, it's not that you don't care. It's that you care more about being authentic than you do about being judged, and that you are so courageous in that. And just
Thank
saying, like,
you.
I struggled with this piece. And you know what? I don't think you're alone here. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs that start as a solopreneur, that start to add team, whether they're employees or contractors,
Hmm.
you know, that struggle with where are those boundaries? Where are those lines? What are my expectations so that I can be clear with other people? Like, I don't even
Totally.
know what I expect because it's just been
No.
me, right? I didn't
Yes.
have to set an expectation because it was just, and now, holy shit, I got somebody else here who
That I'm
actually,
responsible for, like, that's looking to me like I am an actual boss. And I'm
yeah.
like, girl, like, if you looked behind the curtain of this business, it's just like three fish in a fucking trench suit, like, or a trench coat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a disaster. Not anymore, but in the beginning, it's like, I felt I had so much imposter syndrome. I felt like a fraud. And I'm like, and now I have these, you know, people looking to me being like, this is my boss and I'm supposed to be able to like grow them and teach them and help them. And I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing yet. Like,
Yeah, if they ever find out that I am a like a dumpster fire on the back end, like, it'll
totally,
never work for me again. You know what?
totally.
I mean, I think a lot of us struggle with that. I mean, that's why I do the positive intelligence work, is to get a grip on those saboteurs that are telling us that we don't know what we're doing, because it's bullshit. Clearly you do, right? But
Totally.
we have this conversation in our head that's like, I am such a huge fraud. If anybody
Yes.
knew what a hot mess I am, they'd never give me work again, right?
Yeah. But I've heard a friend of mine says, 70% of people have imposter syndrome
Oh
and the
yeah,
other 30% are liars, right? Because
yeah,
everybody has it. It's just
everybody.
we don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about it. And I think, especially as women leaders, we already can feel disadvantaged in some ways, right? Like I always joke, I have to work twice as hard to be taken half as seriously. And I come from a position of privilege. I'm still a white woman who grew
Yep.
up comfortable, I'm
Well
financially
educated.
comfortable, I'm
Yep.
educated,
Yeah.
I have all of these privileges that come along with me. And if I feel like I have to work this hard to be taken half as seriously, then what does, the black entrepreneur feel like? What does the trans entrepreneur feel
Yeah.
like? There are so many other intersections and
Oh
layers,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up, because I think that is absolutely key. Is that we come front end loaded with a whole bunch of baggage and a
Yeah.
whole bunch of chips stacked against us, and some have more than others. But
Hmm.
you're right. I guess if you're like Deepak Chopra or the Dalai Lama and you just meditate all day, maybe you don't have imposter syndrome. Maybe you don't have that saboteur telling you you're not enough. But you're right. Like, I think that's the human condition. It's part of how we're wired. Like, the truth
Yeah.
is part of how our brain works, and it's intended to keep us safe. Because if
Hmm.
it's, what's the old saying, like the safety meeting? Nobody moves, nobody gets hurt. If you
Yes.
don't if you don't do anything risky, you
Yeah.
don't stand the chance of getting hurt or failing. And that's what your saboteur is trying to tell you. But in all reality, like you said, nobody's going to die. So
Yeah.
you do a marketing campaign for a client, they hate it. It's not like the world stops spinning,
No.
but you put it out
You
there.
know, the sun will rise again tomorrow. We'll tweak it. We'll find a way
Right?
forward.
There's other
It's not,
clients. Yeah, like,
yeah, it's not the end of the world.
not the end of the world. I love it. I love it, Emily. I love you are so unabashedly who you are. And that means, you know what I love about that is that means I just get to show up and be my big, bright, loud self too. And that's what makes our
Absolutely.
relationship really special. Um, Emily's already talked about some of her leadership style. She's given us some hints, but I'm going to ask her about her leadership style here in a moment. She's already done my leadership style quiz. if you haven't done it and you want to know how you stack up here against Emily, and you also want some of my great leadership tips that you can really apply today, you can find the link to the quiz in the show notes. You can go to the website, highvoltageleadership.ca, and right at the top is a button that says take the quiz. You can do it right now. It only takes a couple minutes. You'll get a report with your leadership style on it and those great leadership tips. And then, we'll find out sort of how you compare with Emily's style. So tell us, what is your leadership style? I can guess, but
Well, it's funny because I guessed what mine was, and then I found out, and I was like, of course. But then I was like, did I influence the outcome by guessing? But no, I have a supportive leadership style, and not surprising. I think, I lacked a lot of support in a lot of areas in my life. And so, especially in a work capacity. And so, like I said earlier, I maybe didn't know what the perfect leader looked like, but I knew what it didn't look like. And it didn't look unsupportive. It looked like someone who, accepted themselves and their team members, their clients, even, for showing up and just being who they are. And I'm really lucky that I have equally supportive clients. Like when I'll tell a very personal story here, not like I haven't already. But, when COVID first started, I was working at home. I was reading the news 24/7. I was crying all the time. Like, in the early days, we all remember just that anxiety and panic of not knowing anything. And I have a standing meeting with this one client who's like become a really good friend of mine. And we jumped on and I was just bawling and I was such a mess. And he's like, literally, why are we on this call? Like, you're not doing okay today. And I was like, I'm not okay. Like, I don't know. And he's like, literally sign off, go smoke a joint, like sit outside, go for a walk, like just fucking relax. He's like, there's nothing that we do that's so important that we need to have this meeting today. Like, you clearly need some time for yourself. You need to, bring it down, and not in a negative way, like just for my own sanity, come back to a baseline. And so, he gave me permission in a way to say, yeah, you know what? Again, nobody's dying from marketing at that time. It's a different story at that time. But I was like, I don't need to be working today. I'm overwhelmed by the weight of everything happening. So I went outside, sat on my balcony, smoked a joint, was like, this is the best decision I could have made. Really. Like, not advocating for smoking weed at work, but sometimes you need to just shut it down and go do that instead.
But whatever you got to do to get your sanity back, from being a runner, do it. I mean, that's the message, right? But I clearly you have created such an incredible relationship with this client that you could show up and just be a hot mess, and he would respond and say, you need to take care of you. Like, that is really, isn't that what we all want in our client relationships, is a space like that?
Absolutely. And we're so blessed to still work together, and, we've become good friends. It's amazing. But, that support piece, I think it's so critical. And whether that's with clients, like, we kind of tag ourselves as like, we demystify digital marketing, because the number one thing that I hear when people, do a discovery call with me or we have a first conversation is, well, but like, I've been doing marketing for a year and nothing is happening. Like, does it even work? And I've been on social and nobody's buying anything. And I'm like, okay, but like, what's your strategy? Like, let's back it up. Like, what do you think? Like, you sell oil and gas, like plant components. Why the fuck are you on Instagram? Because the CEOs of oil and gas companies are not chilling on Instagram. Like, you need to go to LinkedIn or you need to go to Twitter, figure it out, right? So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about marketing. And so the biggest piece really for me is that education and that support to the client, because there are a lot of shady providers out there that say they'll get you these results and they say they can do all these things and they can't. And so a lot of, entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses get burned. And I know that my clients are not marketers, right? They don't know what they don't know. And so it's my due diligence to support them on that journey, to make sure that they understand, because that's how we're going to build that great relationship and get them the right results. But, so that support shows up in all aspects of my business, really.
I love that. Yes. Yes. And when you said that, that totally made sense to me, because I know that that's what you want. You want to be supportive And I know that you want people to feel like they can just be themselves in whatever aspect.
Totally.
And I love, that's one of the things I love about you.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
oh my gosh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much. I know you're a busy chick, so I really appreciate you taking some time to talk to me today to record this episode. This has been hysterical, as it always is. You can
So
imagine
fun.
what our conversations sound like when we're not working. Um, I'm super grateful to have you in my world, and I'm super grateful you were here today.
Oh, likewise, Lindsay. I'm so happy that we met and all of the wonderful experiences that we've had together. And
Um,
I love this podcast. I'm so excited for everyone to listen to this episode. If you have any feedback on anything I said, you can definitely,
yeah.
send me a message. I'm happy to chat anytime.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're open. Like we've talked about a lot of stuff, some of it controversial. And yeah, yeah, like if you want to connect with Emily, we'll make sure that you have ways to do that. And as always, if you have any feedback about the show, you all know how to reach out to me. But we'd love to generate some dialogue, some conversation around some of these hot topics because they're real. They're real. This
Yep.
is what we face as female founders, and ultimately, that's what the show's all about. Is like
Yeah.
what's underneath, what's the backstory, right? So.
But
Yeah.
honestly, if I can do it, if I can run a business for 5 years and it hasn't imploded or exploded yet, I'm telling you, whoever's listening, you can also do it. Take that idea that you have, get it out of the basement, get it out of the darkness, bring it into the light, tell someone about it, build it in public. Just fucking go for it and do it. Because truly, if I really believe that if I can do it, anybody can do it. Entrepreneurship doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be hard. It's going to feel that way sometimes. But really, if you are a woman and you have an idea, just go fucking build it. And I can't wait to support you when you do.
I love it. That is such a great message to end the episode. Thank you, my friend. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.